Hello and welcome to the All Rookie Podcast. Today is July 2nd, 2023, and I'm your host, William Harris, aka William is Bill. Back with you today on another great episode of the All Rookie Podcast. I have a very special guest. You've seen him before, you love him. My main man, Vonzel Lucky, aka the Vons. How you doing today, brother?
Doing great, man. Feeling good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you back on. Tell everyone your Twitter. Even though Twitter's acting crazy and it's debatable whether we'll even use the app anymore.
Yeah, Twitter was pretty crazy today, but follow me on Twitter at the Vons, THA_VONZ.
There you go. There you go. Now, of course, we did a couple shows before the draft talking about some of our favorite guys, mock lottery, favorite landing spots. Overall, with all the wild trades and selections, what did you think of the draft this year?
It was just as wild and unexpected as you would think it would be. There were so many big names headlining the draft, and there were so many unpredictable things going on, and it was even more unpredictable than I thought. There were so many names there were a few names drafted that weren't even on my board at all. So that we'll eventually get to. But yeah, it was pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, it was. And I had a lot of guys that I thought were really talented that didn't get drafted. So it was all over the place. And I
Mhm.
hated how the draft now is penalizing teams allegedly, but they're really just penalizing young players when they forfeit the draft pick. That's two other players should have got drafted. They did not get to. But with that being said, I know this is not a Charlotte thing, even though you have on the Hornets gear. But we got to go over the Hornets draft picks. That's where the draft started, really, at number 2.
Mhm.
Would
Yeah.
they take Scoot? Would they take Brandon Miller? We've talked about it. We both thought they should have went with Scoot. They went with Brandon Miller. How'd you feel about that selection?
Initially, I feel like it was the wrong choice. I still very strongly believe that Scoot Henderson may win Rookie of the Year this year, may go on to be an All NBA type player. But now that the Charlotte Hornets have drafted Brandon Miller, I am 100% behind him.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all the great things that he can possibly do for our organization. This guy's a 6'9" guy that can shoot. He's giving you like 8 to 9 rebounds a night, and he's focused on defense. When I went to go look at his AAU games when he's playing for Brad Bill AAU, this guy won defensive MVP. From the tournament. It's like he's really really active. So someone that's really focusing on defense at 6'9" is trying to go get every rebound possible. Is It's hard not to like the guy. So I'm happy about the pick.
Yeah, I think most people probably would have liked him, and it would have been an issue if we had the third pick. It's just when you have that second pick, you get your hopes up so high, and you think Scoot is just going to be that guy. It feels like a letdown. But once you pass the draft, it's like Brandon Miller could be really special for this team,
Yes.
especially with LaMelo. How'd you feel with their picks of Nick Smith, James Nagy, Amari Bailey overall with the Hornets?
Okay, so like we've done a few shows before, and Nick Smith was a guy that I know he was highly favored, highly heralded coming out of high school, top number 1, 2, or 3 coming out of high school. And if you look at his mixtapes, like the guy, he can put the ball in the basket. And but when he was with his first year in Arkansas, it's just he was coming off injury and he just wasn't able to really put it together. And just if we were just purely judging on that 1 year in college, I wasn't all that impressed, enough to have him on my big board, barely in the first round. But that's where the Hornets ended up getting him. A lot of people still had him as a lottery guy, Nick Smith, and he ended up falling down to 27. So the fact that we may get good value out of a guy, that's what I'm looking at. That maybe with another year with some NBA development, that we may get some really good value out of a guy that, like I said, was number 1 coming out of high school not too long ago.
Yeah, he played with Anthony Black. So if he's truly a point guard, he didn't really get to display that fully, kind of split duties, combo guard. If he was on another team, he might could have showed more. So it could be a steal at 27. I'm not mad at it. If it was in the lottery, I'd be a little more questionable. But a lot of times guys in the 20s don't even play. And then we were able to get the big man, James Nagy. A lot of people had him in the top 20, big man from
Mhm.
Barcelona.
Yeah.
You think he'll play this year or be in the G League?
I thought they were gonna stash him at first and keep him in Barcelona, but they're saying that they're not gonna do that. They're gonna be having him here. So As far as the G League or playing for the team, they have Mark Williams, starting center, a backup with Nick Richardson that just now gave a contract, a very good, favorable team contract, and Kai Jones is still under contract. So with James Najee, it seems like there's a bit of a log jam, there. So I'm not sure how they'll do that. If there's an injury, I'm sure they'll pull him up because he looks more put together to play center than Kai Jones does right now.
Yeah.
So if there's any kind of injury to Mark Williams or Nick, they'll probably pull him up, to the Hornets for that.
Yeah, but overall, I have to say they have an A grade for their draft. So
Oh,
speaking
don't forget Amari Bailey.
right. You think he'll get some run? Because we did not sign Nick Smith. I mean Dennis Smith Jr. He's gone. So Amari Bailey could play.
Oh yeah, Amari Bailey. He's gonna see some time in the G League. No, the things that I was liking about him from what came back from him with the when they invited him in to play against all the other college guys and in the combine and everything, this guy was averaging 5 assists in a lot of those games. So they just kept bringing him back and bringing him back. And I was reading about that. I was like, okay, so he's not just all about himself trying to get to it, to get to the cup. And watching him at UCLA, they really emphasize playing defense. So as far as being a point of attack defender and someone that can get you 3-4 assists in the NBA, not this year right now, but eventually 2 to 3 years down the line. Like I'm higher on Amari Bailey, personally than Nick Smith. Yeah, I really like the Amari Bailey pick. I do.
I was gonna say a lot of people think he's more ready right now than Nick Smith. So if it's a competition, he might win that, and that'll surprise some people. But yeah, I think you got to give the Hornets an A. As far as anybody else, who you think stood out as far as best drafts? I have a couple in mind. Let's see if you hit those.
The one that's just hard to overlook that you can't go over, the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously it was easy to get Victor Wembanyama. You got the #1 pick. That's what you should have done. But you can't look past the #2 pick when they could have just gotten Scoot Henderson. So you can do things other than what everyone's telling you to do. They could have done something else, but they did the right thing. Just went ahead and drafted Wemby. So yeah, they got a grade A+ for drafting Wemby. But then after that, they got Sidy Cissoko from the G League, who is someone that I really fell in love with because I was watching a lot of the G League because of Scoot. And between Leonard Miller and Sidy, I'm like, Sidy, this guy's a tall athlete that can do a little bit of everything. So he's still pretty raw. But the fact that he's with Pop and the San Antonio Spurs organization, that just boosts him up that much more. That I think in 2 or 3 years, maybe not even that long from now, that people are going to be looking like, how did the Spurs get this guy to? I love the draft.
I had him ranked 23rd. So, I mean, to get him at 44, that was just ridiculous. Yeah. And on top of that, he's French, just like Victor. So they're going to have a connection off of that right there. So Victor won't feel alone. So, I mean, they hit that out of the park. You have thoughts on the Rockets. They ended up getting a steal there.
They sure did. So first of all, Amen Thompson. I believe I projected them to go there in one of my picks, but I wasn't sure if that's where they were going to go at all.
Yeah.
Because they have guards and forwards, and then they were talking about James Harden possibly wanting to go back there at one point. So wasn't sure if they were actually going to pull the trigger on that. But they got Amen Thompson, and that's one freak of an athlete. At 6'7", almost 6'8", he's going to be one of the fastest guys up and down the court. One of the guys so quick off of his feet. I mean, he's been compared to like a taller John Morant, type of guy. With his passing skills are even higher than John Morant's. Right now. So them adding Amen Thompson is going to be huge for them. And then another person that fell down the draft boards. There were so many people that had, I believe almost everyone had Cam Whitmore in the lottery. And more than half of the boards that I saw had him in the top 5 to top 6. So the fact that him falling down to 20, I know it's some medical issues, but this is a extreme value pick at 20 for Cam Whitmore. And just all the other moves that they did in the meantime, when you're looking at them having Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore, how are they going to get to play? They just traded KJ Martin. So they opened up a little more space, for these rookies and young guys to play. And on top of that, they brought in some veteran leadership, bringing in Fred VanVleet, good gracious, man, and Dylan Brooks. And I got a new coach in Ami Udoka. So these guys are they went from like one of the worst teams in the NBA as far as their record to you got to watch out for them. Like they have, I mean, you were saying the last time we recorded, like they have talent, they have plenty of talent, and now they got some veteran leadership. This draft and everything they've done, after that, they've hit it out the park.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things. Like they had talent, but they're all babies, So a lot of people are knocking them for these moves, bringing these veterans in, but that's going to help the babies develop. Fred VanVleet's going to be great for Amen. If they keep Kevin Porter Jr., he needs leadership too. Fred VanVleet will help with that. Dillon Brooks can help Cam Whitmore. I know Dillon Brooks is looked at as a villain and like a wild card. But I mean, at the end of the day, this guy is a defensive player, like in the conversation, defensive player of the year type of player. So you have to spend the money on someone. They did. Yeah, Amen may not get 35 minutes a game right away, but it will help him in the long run.
It will.
Yeah. What did you think about the Lakers? I know you had thoughts on that. You used to be a Lakers fan, I'm pretty sure.
I'm still a Lakers fan. I'm still a Lakers fan.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's just home team first, but I'm still a Lakers fan. But yeah, the Lakers, they have some good moves. Speaking of home team, Jalen Hood-Schifino, did you know he's actually from Charlotte? I didn't know that till I did the research on this guy. So he played for some private schools his first 2 years, and then his junior year he went to Mount Verde, and he played there ever since. But he's from the city. He's from Charlotte. Wow. But getting him at 17, I feel like that was also another good value pick. He's someone that kind of struggles shooting the ball from the 3-point line, but he's similar to a D'Angelo Russell, a right-hand D'Angelo Russell. He's crafty. You can't really speed him up or slow him down. He knows how to get to his spots. He runs a good pick and roll. He's going to be a good value pick for them. They also got Maxwell Lewis, who's someone that I didn't pay much attention to until they drafted, but he's like a big home run type swing to where if he hits, this guy can be really good, great scorer. But and then they also just brought in Jackson Hayes, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, and Gabe Vincent, as well as retaining D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Vanderbilt. And they got they had another guy, Cam something. They had another guy from last year too. But yeah, the Lakers are ready.
Yeah, they're loaded.
No, I wasn't thinking about Cam Reddish. But yeah, they got some guys.
They got a lot. Yeah, so a lot of people are knocking that in a way. I mean, it's mainly guys in fantasy because as far as real life basketball, they made all the smart moves. But then you think of the draft, people are like, man, I wanted Jalen Hood-Schifino to play. I wanted Maxwell Lewis to play. But as soon as they drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino, I was like, LeBron is not going to hand the keys over to a rookie to run the point, So I was like, it's a great pick, but he's not playing, right? And then here they are bringing back all their guys. So the Lakers are going to be in good shape, but just not as far as fantasy and rookies yet. Everyone gets knocked down in value. A team we hadn't talked about, did you have thoughts on the Utah Jazz? I thought they knocked it out of the park with 3 amazing picks.
I did. I actually they were the last team for my great draft. Houston, San Antonio, Lakers, San Antonio Spurs. I mean, and Utah Jazz. Great draft. So instead of like 3 great picks, for me, I said they had 3 big swings, and one of those are going to be a home run.
Yeah, for sure.
So, between Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh, they're all guys who have glaring weaknesses, but they also have an out of this world talent to them as well. So one of these guys is gonna, if not more than one, but Taylor Hendricks at 9, Keontae George at 16, and Bryce Sensabaugh at 28. That's insane value, for him, because he's looked at, he can be one of the best scorers in this entire draft. Shooter, scorer, 3-level scorer, like he can put the ball in the basket. Taylor Hendricks, he's another almost a freak athlete, because I mean he can get up and down the court, and that 3-point shot, if that 3-point shot can go in at the NBA level, he's something you really got to watch out, and that's really why he was drafted so high in the draft in the first place. And Keontae George, he's another guy, the Baylor guy, I believe, that people were really high on in the lottery, and they got him all the way down to 16. So I'm like 3 guys that are just 3 home run swings, and one of those things are going to hit, if not more.
For sure. I'm really big on Taylor Hendricks. He was my 5th best player in this draft. And that's 1 year out of UCF. So with more development, he's only going to get better. But then again, Utah brought in a veteran. that's going to limit his minutes, signing with the trade for John Collins. How did you feel about that fit for Utah?
It seemed like they were just taking leftovers from Atlanta. I didn't know it didn't look like they were trying to assemble a, a winning piece with that move. Maybe that was the agenda with that, but it doesn't. I didn't get it. I didn't get that
Yeah.
move at all.
Well, as far as value, I think they only had to give up like a second, maybe 2 seconds. So John Collins is worth that. Maybe they'll sign him and trade him midway through the season or something. It was weird to me that Atlanta just gave him away for basically nothing.
Mm.
So I don't know what
That
Atlanta.
contract, they didn't want to do it with contract.
It was a contract. Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
and the new CBA.
Bad contracts are just allowing teams to get players that they shouldn't get. It's weird because Jordan Poole to the Wizards for nothing. They signed Kyle Kuzma as well. Did you have thoughts on the Wizards draft? They ended up with Bilal Coulibaly, the international man of mystery. They got Jordan Poole, they got Kyle Kuzma, but Kristaps Porzingis is gone. Are they just going to be rebuilding or just a fun shooting, gunning team?
So they got new owners, new gym, new everything, and they decided to clear house. And it was really kind of weird to look at how they did that Bradley Beal deal and the things how the value that they got for Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a new owner's perspective, he's not the person that was invested into Bradley Beal. So what he gets back, he's just trying to get back whatever he can get back so we can just start things over right now. So as far as if you look at all the picks and everything they've gotten so far since they've started this whole thing, it doesn't look terrible. But as far as winning, I don't see them being able to like win much more next year than they won last year. They do have Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole. They'll be able to get 25 plus shots a night on varied efficiency, and I guess they'll have some fun.
It'll be fun. They'll be fun, but lose, and that's probably what they want to do because they want a high draft pick next year. So yeah, but speaking of once again, did you have any shocking picks or bad picks or anything you want to discuss about that?
So I had some questionable drafts picks. So the Orlando Magic. When we were discussing them earlier, I'm like some things that they need is defense and shooting. So I was projecting Jarris Wallace to go there or a Cam Whitmore, something like that to give them some defense, and then a Grady Dick, for shooting. And they essentially they went that way with defense and shooting, but with their defender, they went with Anthony Black. So I was assuming you to go with someone that wasn't a ball handler, someone that operated primarily off the ball. And Anthony Black, I assume you'll have him play wing, but it's a little puzzling, that you would draft, Anthony Black, another ball handler, and then Jet Howard. It's hard to say that it seems like a reach. Jet Howard, Grady Dick was another shooter that was right there available, but we'll just have to see. And so I don't want to give them a bad draft grade. It's just questionable, to me right now. Maybe once Anthony Black gets put into that rotation and he's playing a small forward, and you got Paulo Banchero playing point guard or something like that. It's like whatever, however they make that work. But it just looks questionable right now. And then the Jet Howard pick at 11, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, they're going to be one of the more interesting teams to see because I think this kind of may mean the end of the tenure for Markelle Fultz. And like if they use Anthony Black at point guard, I mean, this team is going to be huge, and they possibly could. And I mean, if they wanted to, they could put Jet at the 2. I mean, that would be insane. I think they said they went with overall game is why they went with Jet over Grady. They think Grady might be limited to a shooter. They said Jet, just like we were talking about Nick Smith, he was kind of banged up for a large portion of the year. And when he's healthy, he's even better than what he showed. So, I mean, Orlando could be on to something. I felt they needed a shooting guard mainly. And I wonder if they would have went with Ausar if he wouldn't have been taken at 5th. And so that's maybe they went the direction with Anthony Black like that. So they're going to be a good young team of the future. Is there anything more you want to talk about with the draft or go straight to undrafted free agents?
I got another questionable one. The Oklahoma City Thunder. They drafted like Taysom Wallace. was high on the guy, but it didn't make sense to me to draft another guard at 10 for Oklahoma City. To play on the bench primarily. It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of puzzling. But the same thing for Orlando Magic is just once they put him into that rotation and however they run it, maybe it'll make sense once I see it because I really like Cason Wallace and he does the things that they like to do. You know, he's a guy that can play off the ball and play above average defense, and that's what you're getting from every single person that they draft. Chet Holmgren, he can play off the ball and is above average on defense. Giddey, Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, both of the Jalen's. It's like this is the kind of guy that they draft. You know, above average on defense, play off the ball. But position wise, I just don't get it. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, they have also Tre Mann. So either this means they don't believe in Tre Mann or they want. I don't know how that's going to work because they drafted him in the first round just 2 years ago. And he can light it up. So they have kind of 4 point guards right now. I felt they needed a big to go along with Chet to provide him some help up there. But they must be thinking they can get that in free agency, which they haven't really made too many moves. So that was weird to me. But if he supplants Tre Mann, I guess it makes sense. But I felt they probably should have traded the pick or maybe went with Derek Lively. I don't even like Derek Lively. But you need that center position to go along with Chet because he can't be down there by himself, just like Victor's not ready to be down there by himself in San Antonio. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. So going to the free agents, I just wanted to mention Kyrie Irving. How'd you feel about him going back to Dallas? Did he make the right choice? Did the Lakers drop the ball? How do you feel about Kyrie?
Kyrie didn't have much leverage. He tried to pit the Lakers up against them, but the Lakers weren't into it. You know, they were obviously moving in other directions pretty early on. So when it got to that point, there was no way Kyrie was going to be able to get the max money. But they also knew they didn't want to deal with a disgruntled Kyrie and try to lowball him. And then he comes to work every day, but he's just angry about it all the time. You know, so they gave him what, 42 million a year. Yeah, you know, so he didn't get maxed out all the way, but he got enough. You know, he's over 40. You know, so right. I don't think he had many other options.
Yeah, now we have to talk about the Jeremy Grant signing. I think it was 4 years for 160 or 5 years for 160. And then the next day, Damian Lillard requested a trade out of Portland. So that's a whole interesting thing with Portland. I guess they're going to accommodate Dame. He said he wants to go to Miami. How do you feel about that situation?
As soon as the Hornets drafted Brandon Miller and they went ahead and drafted Scoot Henderson, the clock was on because you got all these guards between Scoot, Anthony, and Dame. Like all of these guys are 6'2", 6'3". You know, all of them. Yeah. You know, playing guard. You know, so the clock was on for that, and yeah, it just is what it is now. This has been a long time coming for. It's like, will they or won't they? Is he going to stay? Is he not going to stay? And eventually it came to that. They drafted Scoot Henderson. They've been going to a youth movement and tried to have their cake and eat it too. And now this is the end. This is the end of the game.
Yeah, they also got your boy Chris Murray. How'd you feel about that pick?
So Chris Murray, I've liked him so much for the first round, and I was gonna like it so much more if he could have went 24th to Sacramento. They picked a 1 pick before Sacramento, and I wanted it so much.
But he'll probably play more in Portland, so it'll work out. He won't be overshadowed by his brother now.
Yeah.
So that's good. So yeah, that was interesting. Like we talked about with the medicals, you know, Bryce Sensabaugh fell, Cam Whitmore fell. It's still just unclear. I wish we had more information on why those guys fell, because I also heard with Cam Whitmore that he bombed interviews and personality and all that. But then his team was like, no, he's just an introvert. He's not an outgoing person. So I don't think that should be used against him, but we just need more information. I think these medicals should be released way in advance of the draft. We shouldn't be finding out the day of the draft and then a guy like Cam Whitmore fall 15 spots like that.
Yeah, that was tough to see.
It was. That was crazy. Was there any second round guys that you felt were great value? Pretty much everyone in the second round should have went in the second round, except for maybe Leonard Miller, Sidi Sissoko, James Najee, maybe. Any of them stand out to you? Ryan Rupert, Gigi Jackson. That was a big.
Yeah. Leonard Miller, I had him as a first round guy. So that was a big
Yeah, we
surprise for
like
me. I think
him.
he was a possible. Yeah. And Sidi Sissoko as well. I had him at the end of my first round by the time the draft was coming up. So him going so late was surprising. Um, who else? A guy that I was surprised that got drafted at all
Yeah.
was Imani Bates. I didn't know if
My
he was actually
guy.
going to.
Come on, that's my
I mean,
guy.
I like him too. I'm a big fan
Okay.
of Imani Bates,
Okay.
but it's just like whenever he's brought up, it's like people don't remember like how good this guy is,
Right.
So the fact that he got drafted, I figured he would be like an undrafted guy that somebody might take a shot on, but he got drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers with their only draft pick.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that like someone gave him a chance, and like now it's back, the ball's back in his court. Like if he wants to be a professional and show like how talented he really is, he has the opportunity here.
For sure. And he seems motivated and by this falling to 49, possibly going undrafted. So I think he's ready and his mindset is right. Another player that fell, probably the biggest fall in the draft, was Trace Jackson Davis. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yeah, the big man from Indiana. He played with Jalen Hood-Schifino. Incredible college season. He averaged, I think, 20 and 10. And he fell to pick 57 for the Warriors.
Warriors.
What did you feel about that? That was crazy.
The Warriors got two guys. I believe they got Brandon Podziemski. What was the guy's name? Yeah. So both of those guys, to where it's like if you get them to play the right system, they can do what you need them to do.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that Trace fell as low as he fell, but they got two guys that for their system they're going to be able to get some very good value out of them.
For sure. I mean, he easily should have been a first rounder. I mean, late first rounder. So I mean, I thought if Draymond was going to leave in free agency, which they did re-sign Draymond, he could have probably stepped in and played 20 minutes right away. So
yeah.
But we hit on the best drafts. Is there any team that stood out as the worst draft, or everyone did pretty good? I think I had a bad grade on the Nuggets.
I have a bad the last questionable I had was a Miami Heat. I didn't like Jamie Jaquez.
It's weird. It's something like that.
Yeah. So I look when he got drafted, I was like, they're at 18. I'm like, there's so many guys that I have, valued higher than that. I'm like, I cannot believe. So, but even after like I went back, did my due diligence, like I looked the guy up, I've watched him play. So same thing I was saying about the Warriors. Like, if you put him in the right system for what you're trying to do, like, great. And he's a Miami type guy. But why not trade down? Like, no, I didn't see any. Maybe they had more information. I'm sure they did. That someone else was. That if they didn't draft him at 18, he was going to get picked. But it was puzzling to me. At the time. So I don't give them a bad grade, but it was just, I'm like, why not trade down if that was the case? But like you said, as far as a bad draft, the Denver Nuggets is the only one that I'm not just puzzled. It seems bad, but they make good picks and turn it into something like we've seen with Christian Brown and so I don't know, like maybe the things that they did with Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, and Hunter Tyson, maybe they can turn that into something good and do something good with it. But it's more than puzzling. It almost seems bad. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they went toward, okay, what does our team need? They didn't care nothing about value or anything. They don't care who's still on the board. It's like, we need these guys that do this. Yeah. Forget where we get them with all that. They're just going to fit in our team. We only need them 10 minutes or whatever. That's fine. So they're the champs. They can do that. That's how that goes. So, but Miami, it was puzzling on top of the player they selected, who I was not high on at all. I thought he was barely draftable. But the position, like, you needed clearly a big to go up against Jokic. Bam needed some help down there. And you probably needed a point guard because Lowry's aging out. And then they just let go of Gabe Vincent. Yeah. So to go for another position that's similar to Caleb Martin, that was weird. So I agree with you on that. Yeah. So I think we covered everything. Is there anything left on the agenda we need to talk about?
I think we did it.
Yeah. So all around, it was a great draft, wild and crazy free agency, and we're gonna go into next season wondering what these teams are gonna look like. They're all gonna be captivating. Tell everybody one more time about your Twitter, and I appreciate you joining me.
Oh yeah, so follow me on Twitter as THA_VONZ, the Vons. Also, you can follow me on TikTok. I'll be posting a lot more content, NBA related, Hornets related, and probably some of my dog on there as well. But it's at Vonzel Lucky, VONZELLLUCKEY. But yeah, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Twitter. There'll be lots of NBA content.
There you go. I'm gonna have to get on TikTok. I haven't started that yet, but that's where everyone might be moving to in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Vonzel Luckily, my main man, Vonzel Lucky. I said luckily.
No.
I appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me,
Until
man.
next time, we're out of here, y'all. Peace.
Peace.